Shri Radharanath ki, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki, Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari ki, ISKCON Foundation Srila Prabhupada ki, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Bhakti Vedanta Purpose ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Prema, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Guru and Gaura, the seat of Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraya Nasta Prayasya Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much for coming to this Sangha. So today we'll read from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 15, texts 4 and 5. The subject matter is about Prabhupada's miracle. So we are going to read about the different types of mystic perfections that are there in the Vedas. Anima Mahima Murte Lagima Praptir Indrihai Prakamyam Shrutad Riteshu Shakti Priranam Isita Guneshva Sangha Vasita Yadkamastat Avasyati Etame Siddhaya Saumya Asta Outpatika Mataha. Everyone read. Anima, the perfection of becoming smaller than the smallest. Mahima, becoming greater than the greatest. Bolte of the body,
of the body,
Lagima,
Lagima,
becoming lighter than the lightest,
becoming lighter than the lightest,
Prapti,
Prapti,
acquisition,
acquisition,
Indrihai,
Indriya,
by the senses,
by the senses,
Prakamyam,
Prakyam,
obtaining or performing whatever one desires,
obtaining whatever one desires,
Shruta,
Shruta,
things invisible,
things invisible,
about which one only hears,
which one only hears,
Dristeshu,
Deshu,
and things visible,
things visible,
Shakti Preranam,
Shakti Preranam,
manipulating the sub-potencies
manipulating the subtotal
of Maya,
of Maya,
Ishita,
Ishita,
the perfection of controlling,
the perfection of controlling,
Guneshu,
Guneshu,
in the modes of material
the
nature,
modes of material nature,
Asanga,
Asanga,
being obstructed,
being obstructed,
Vasita,
Vasita,
the power to bring others under control,
power to bring others under control,
Yat,
Yat,
whatever,
whatever,
Karma,
Karma,
desire there may be,
they may be,
Tat, that, Avashyati,
Avashanti,
one can obtain,
one can obtain,
Eta,
Vita,
these,
these,
me,
me,
my
my,
potencies,
potencies,
Siddhaya,
Hidaya,
mystic perfections,
perfection,
Soumya,
Soumya,
O gentle Hudava,
O gentle Buddha,
Asto,
Asto,
8,
eight,
Outpatika,
Pratika,
natural and unexcelled, Mataha,
Mataha,
understood to be.
understood to be,
So this seems like a conversation between Krishna and Uddhava, yes, 11th canto. Among the 8 primary mystic perfections, the 3 by which one transforms one's own body, anima, becoming smaller than the smallest, mahima, becoming greater than the greatest, and lagima, becoming lighter than the lightest. Through the perfection of prapti, one acquires whatever one desires. And through prakamya siddhi, one experiences any enjoyable object, either in this world or the next. Through isita siddhi, one can manipulate the sub-potencies of Maya. And through the controlling potency called vasita siddhi, one is unimpeded by the 3 modes of nature. One is acquired kama vasa Shita Siddhi can obtain anything from anyone to the highest possible limit. My dear gentle Uddhava, these 8 mystic perfections are considered to be naturally existing and unexcelled within this world. Prabhupada gives a purport here. Purport by His Divine wasn't Prabhupada, it was the disciples of Prabhupada. Prabhupada only did commentary up to the 10th canto, halfway through up to chapter 14 of the 10th canto. And Prabhupada passed on, but after that the disciples did the purports and these commentaries. Through Hanuman Siddhi, one can become so small that one can enter into a stone or pass through any obstacle. Through Mahima Siddhi, one can become so great that one covers everything. And through Lagima, one becomes so light that one can ride on the sun's rays into the sun planet. Through Prapti Siddhi, one can acquire anything from anywhere and can even touch the moon with one's fingers. By this mystic perfection, one can also enter into the senses of any other living entity through the predominating deities of the particular senses. And by thus utilizing the senses of others, one can acquire anything. Through Prakamya, one can experience any enjoyable object, either in this world or the next. And through Isita, or the controlling potency, one can manipulate the sub-potency of Maya, which are material. In other words, even by acquiring mystic powers, one cannot pass beyond the control of illusion. However, one may manipulate the sub-potencies of illusion. Through Vasita, or the power to control, one can bring others under one's dominion, or keep oneself beyond the control of the 3 modes of nature. Ultimately, one acquires, through Kama Vasita, the maximum powers of control, acquisition, and enjoyment. The word Outpatika in this verse indicates being original, natural, and unexcelled. These 8 mystic potencies originally exist in the Supreme Person of Godhead, Krishna, in the superlative degree. Lord Krishna becomes so small that he enters within the atomic particles, isn't it? How does he enter? In what transformation does? Yes, very good, Paramatma. So if the atom is so infinite, how small does the Lord can make himself to enter into that? These 8 mystics originally exist in the Supreme Godhead, Krishna, in the superlative degree. Lord Krishna becomes so small that he enters within the atomic particles. And he becomes so large that as Mahavishnu, he breathes out millions of universes in the causal ocean. When the Lord wants to create, he takes the form of these Purusha avatars, Mahavishnu, Kabodakshai Vishnu, Karnakdashai Vishnu, isn't for the purpose of creation. So, if you say millions of universes comes out of his breathing, out of his pores, when he breathes out, and when he breathes in, they all come back. So this constant, says Bhutva, Bhutva Pralayate, again and again. There's creation and there's annihilation going on in this universe. The Lord certainly can enjoy whatever he likes, control all energies, dominate all other persons, and exhibit complete omnipotency. Therefore, it is to be understood that these 8 mystic perfections are insignificant expansions of the mystic potency of the Lord, who in Bhagavad Gita is called Yogeshwara. Yogeshwara, yes, he's the Yogeshwara, he's the control of all, Ishvara, control of all these yogic mystic perfections. The Supreme Lord of all mystic potencies, these 8 perfections are not artificial, but are natural and unexcelled because they originally exist in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumalitam Jaina Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swam Padantika Vanchakalpa Tarobhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyahevacha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So what is Prabhupada's miracle? You, all of us are Prabhupada's miracle, yes. Yes, they made hippies into saints, sinners into saints. That's Prabhupada's miracle. But anyway, we'll talk about that. One time there was one person was bragging about these yogis can do so many wonderful things. You can produce an apple. Prabhupada said, apple? One apple? Leave the ashes. Talk about an apple. Of course, in Prabhupada's time, Prabhupada speaks of one, in Calcutta, Prabhupada witnesses personally that this yogi produced a pomegranate, fresh cut with the leaf from Afghanistan, without going anywhere, just sitting where he was, he manifested. Thus, through his mystic power. There is another story of one yogi who was saying how he could cross this river, walk on water. And he was challenging somebody. He says, if you give me, I will give you, no, he's saying, if you give me so much money, I will show you how I can walk on water without, and he said, I will teach you also that. If you give me, and it meant a lot of thousands of rupees. So this clever guy, he was a bit intelligent. He said, Are Baba, I can hire a boat for 2 rupees. Without wetting my feet, I can go across. Why should I give you? So all of these yogis spend hundreds of years. We don't know, sometimes it's hard to tell how old they are. If you read the book of Radhanath Swami, there's a book he wrote. What was that? Journey Home. How many of you read that book? No? Sure. That was a bestseller. The Journey Home, he tells of how he left home when he was like 17, 18 years old, the young American boy from a Jewish family. And they decided to hitchhike across Europe. And of course, he had many escapades, Amsterdam, coming into Turkey, then crossing into India. And then, some point he lost all his passport, he lost his money, and he was destitute. He couldn't even enter properly into so he stayed in the Himalaya mountains, and he tells his life of living with the yogis, and he said these yogis, and he has pictures of them all in his book, and they look very youthful, but he says he could not tell their age. Long matted hair right to the floor, and they were mystic yogis living in caves, not in nice palatial buildings, but in caves, sharing the caves with different types of poisonous snakes and dogs, all kind of crazy bears. But they live in harmony with this. But the goal of them it was like a selfish thing. It wasn't like they wanted the love of God, or these yogis wanted, I guess, some kind of peace away from the world, but in their own vow, like their own kind of emancipation, and their own type of liberation, which is a personal thing, not for the benefit of others, for their own. But some yogis, they use this kind of mystic powers to make a show, like we know so many. The head of Uri Geller.
Yes.
You heard of Uri Geller?
Benzain.
Yeah, he could stare at her and then they'll
Stay with the eyes, yeah.
stop the watch from moving just by his, or it's like bent, a
Yes.
fork, and he showed this on television live. And there was another David Copperfield, like Western type of mystics.
Yes.
So like that, there's many, but they are for their own. So when they misuse that powers, then they lose it. We become very commercially, just use it to make money. They all have desires. Yogis have desires. And some yogis want to become God. They think I have all this power, people worship me. Like in that case of this one in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, there was this bogi yogi, isn't? Who was, said flames were coming out of his hair.
Right.
Yeah, he was a mystic. And people thought this is, so by his, as we read in here, he had his power to manipulate, control people.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur defeated him.
Yeah, I will come to that. Yes. But when saw through him, pure devotee of Krishna can see through these things, and he wanted to expose him. But this yogi was powerful also, and he cursed Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his children to get sick. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur got sick. But still he was determined. This is a rascal, I have to expose him. And so he collaborated with the British. That time the British were in controlling India at that time, were ruling. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a very high prominent position as one of the assistant magistrates of Jagannath Puri. Yeah, so he had influence, and he was very expert in English. You know, he was a translator in the court. And if you read all his poems and writings, he's quite very, very prolific writer. He was also. So he had this yogi arrested and put into prison. Yeah. And still he was like, you know, that power was still there. Then they realized that they take all his hair out. They cut off, and all the power was in his hair, yes. Like in the Bible, the story of Samson and Delilah also. Similar. Samson and all the power in his hair. So don't grow too much hair. Therefore we shave all it. Yeah, so these, coming back to that apple, the story of the apple, how this yogi was bragging, he could, one apple, so it took, how long did it take him, you know, to develop this type of, lifetime, isn't it? Just to some material thing, nothing big. And Prabhupada would say, whatever the yogis, like all these cities, they could do, the scientists have emulated them. The scientists they build ships that can float on water. They build rockets that can fly in the air. Go to different interplanetaries now. They go to the so-called moon, Mars, isn't? Whereas yogis could do that. Yeah, just by mind. Even you, isn't? You can travel by mind. Just thinking of Vrindavan, you can be. All you have to do is think about it and you die. Isn't it? So the mind is very powerful. So what you speak of these yogis, how they can project interplanetary. There was in the third canto, the Kadama Muni, one of the great mystic yogis also, he got married. You know, he wanted, of course he wanted to stay brahmachari, but the higher authority said, no, you should get married to this beautiful girl, Devahuti. So he got married. And she served him very nicely. And he, in reward, by his mystic power, he created a whole aerial mansion that could inter-travel through all over the universe. And he had 1,000 maid servants taking care of Devahuti. You know, and the way it's described in the Bhagavatam, it's like there's forests and there's beautiful lakes and fountains, beautiful bath laden in everything, you know, like food for a king or a queen. So Devahuti was being rewarded like that. Just by his mistake, he created this aerial mansion that can fly all over the world. Imagine some woman wants, people dream of that, isn't fantasy, being swept off their feet by some Prince Charming, taken, isn't it like a dream? But he did that. He did that. And he said, he expanded himself 9 times to satisfy his wife. 9? That's maximum. An ordinary man can, or a yogi, mystic yogi can. So he had 9 daughters. From that, And one son later appeared, Kapila. Lord Kapila Muni, is said to be an empowered Shakti-Vaisha avatar of the Lord. So these, but he wanted, after the son was born, he left home. Because that's the culture. The son will take care of the. So we see the Kapila is preaching to his mother. Because she was so obsessed by all his material opulence, and he was trying to like, so how to become detached. So he's actually preaching to her there in that exchange of wonderful, isn't it? You can read in the Bhagavad. Kapila, son of Devavati. Yeah. So yeah, this Apple story. And Prabhupada was telling here, yes, miracle. That's not a miracle. That is not an apple, one apple. Prabhupada spoke of, he says, I went to America with nothing. With? Nothing. Not even a place to stay. He didn't know where, uncertainty of where I'm going to stay. But somehow, by some contact, he stayed with a friend of his son who lived in a place called Butler. That's Prabhupada's first residence was in Butler. And this Agarwal, Mr. Agarwal was married to a white American, very modernized woman, Sally, and they had one son named Bridge. And Prabhupada, I said this, of course they didn't know etiquette, this is a Swami, and she was smoking. I don't think she knew better, Western kind of. And Prabhupada tolerated all that. He tolerated. In the fridge, they had the dog food and pet food. And Prabhupada would keep his cereal in the same fridge. This is all in the Leela-Amrita. You can read there, Prabhupada's life story by Satvarup Maharaj. But Prabhupada, he tolerated. And there's a picture of him, Prabhupada, beaming with laughter when he saw this child take his first steps walking. First steps he took, this boy, Bridge, and that was in this, when was, maybe in 1965. Bridge must be big now, big must be in his, 60s? Could be. That was there. Huh? What? 61?
Yes.
Yeah, around there. I didn't know he can remember Prabhupada. Of course, but look at his good fortune, Prabhupada. Embraced him. Prabhupada laughed at to see him keep walking fast. It's every parent's joy, isn't it? To see you, right? You have children. The first steps they take, isn't it? It's a big, very monumental thing. What to speak when they start talking in their broken language. All is all very fascinating. So yeah, and of course Prabhupada, he persevered. But he prayed. Krishna was on his side. That was his faith in his guru and the message of his guru to preach in the Western language. And Prabhupada went through a lot. It wasn't easy. Of course, and the winters in America is snow. Prabhupada, the first time he's seeing snow and he's walking on. You'll see a picture of Prabhupada dressed very warmly in his garb. Prabhupada didn't compromise for Western attire. He stayed in his Vaishnava attire, even in America. Yeah. He did not compromise. He didn't wear suit and tie or big trench coat. He had a big jacket, of course. Night dressed warmly, he was walking in the snow. And the first preaching center they had was in New York, 2nd Avenue. Matchless Gifts. It's called Matchless Gifts. Later when he started when he had some disciples and he started preaching, very seriously, and some serious people came forward to be part of Prabhupada's movement. And Malati is the wife of who? Shamasundar. Shamasundar were the first servants of Prabhupada, but they were on drugs that time. They were heavily on drugs and they were dealing in drugs. But that was the hippie time. But still they stuck with Prabhupada. Of course, they were in prison also for some time for drug offenses or possession, dealing. But one time she was in a stall and she saw some very fascinating figurine. And she brought it to Prabhupada. This is what I found. And she's, in the store. And Prabhupada looked at it and said, "This is Jagannath. You brought Jagannath." And she didn't know. He said, "Go, there must be more. So go and find, there's nothing more." So she went and she shoplifted. These are the balance of the deities, Jagannath, Subhadra, Baladev, and brought it. And Prabhupada, when she saw that, and she was fascinated, Prabhupada was immediately offered obeisances. Jagannath. We have Jagannath. Prabhupada was saying, this is some kind of arrangement, some high arrangement, how Jagannath has come here, isn't it? So like that. Of course, later they had the first Ratha Yatra, isn't it? The first chariot festival was in 71. And Shamasundar was making the deities, chiseling the deities out of wood. The first deities, the Jagannath deities for the chariot. But then he used to smoke while doing this, and he would leave his cigarettes on top. All this. But Prabhupada tolerated. He tolerated. And they lived like, they weren't married. They were living like husband and wife, just free. That was hippie. The hippie era was like that. Very, not even bathing. And Prabhupada said, "No, we have to cleanse you internally and externally." So he performed the first marriage ceremony. He says, "You must live like human beings, not like animals." Marriage through marriage. Samskars. And Prabhupada, being a sannyasi don't get people married, they don't do marriage. But Prabhupada, just to set the standard, for his followers, he was the acharya. He had to set some standard or some criteria for them. And he gave initiation. Even the woman. And he allowed them, he even gave Brahman initiation to the woman. And allowed them to do deity worship, Prabhupada. And this was looked upon. In India, it's not, you don't see women on the altar. You go to any Indian temple in India, there's only men dressing and cooking. The women mostly make garlands. They're not allowed on the altar. But Prabhupada, in the West, he allowed that. This is Lord Chaitanya's movement. This is Lord Chaitanya is very, very compassionate and he was giving love of God even to the most fallen people. Prabhupada was following in that mood of Lord Chaitanya to give love of God to everybody, not just to one secular Hindus, no, to everybody. Everybody is fallen. In Kali Yuga, it says Kalo Sudra Sambhava. Everybody is born Sudra. Everybody is born Sudra. But doesn't mean they must stay Sudra. Through the process of Krishna consciousness, they can be trained into becoming Brahmanas, isn't it? Even the most fallen. But this wasn't taken so. Even Prabhupada was criticized by his god brothers in India. For that taking those. And he even gave sannyas. So when he took his Western disciples to India, they were first met with, mixed feelings. And these are milechas. You're giving them sannyas, you're giving them Brahman initiation, you're making them devotees. They are milechas. They from the West, meat eaters and sex mongers. Prabhupada, through association with Prabhupada, they became purified. Prabhupada, this is my miracle. This is all these American boys and girls. Is my miracle. That's my miracle. That is my miracle. Not some magic. There was one time, I don't know how true the story, but there was a story going around like this. One of India's great magicians, you know them? There was a family of of magicians, some Sagar. So his son, also following his father, became a magician. So he wanted to meet with Sai Baba. And Sai Baba somehow felt, he says, no, I don't want to meet with him. He sensed this guy is up to something. Something was telling him, no. So somehow he tricked his way and he had darshan, Sai Baba. And immediately Sai Baba produced, something in his hand, sweet, gulab jam or something. And this magician did the same thing. He produced one laddu. Baba is shocked now. He said, see, whatever you can do, I can do also. So it's not a big deal. Magicians. These are magicians. They can do some magic. Or by these different cities, they can manipulate. They can even, like we see the story of Bhishma. When Bhishma was shot in the battle by Arjuna, how many arrows? Hundreds and thousands, isn't it? He was like the arrows became a bed for him, lying on the bed of arrows. But he didn't die there. It took him many days.
Waiting for Krishna.
Yes, they waited for the, also the certain kind of movement of the solar system. They could choose the time. Even yogis can do, they can choose the time of death, But by manipulating you could see yogis sometime in most freezing, they naked, like these Naga Babas. You read of Naga Babas? You heard of Naga Babas? They come down during the Kumbh Mela, once in 12 years. They live in the mountains. They're not in public, they just come very...
No, where they come from?
Yeah, in the mountain, they live in the mountains. Yeah, smoke ganja. They all, Lord Shiva's bhaktas. No, naked. They have chains, I think. Chain, and they carry a begging pole, like, But don't cross them. Don't upset them, they can kill you. They say when they're walking in the Kumbh, they're given first preference. When they're walking through the first, nobody crosses that path. The army is make sure you don't cross that path. They can become very angry. and be violent. They can tendency to get violent also. Yeah. And they are mystics. They are kind of mystic yogis like that. So coming back to Prabhupada. Prabhupada's miracle was bringing these Westerners, and he called them, these are my dancing white elephants. My dancing white elephants. And it's a beautiful story how they went into Surat. You from Surat? Gujarat, yes. And the people, they cultured people, and they see these, and each one is garlanded, the Western, and they're doing Harinam in the streets, and it was thousands of people. When they did the first in Bombay, Cross Maidan, that the first big preaching, it was like 30,000 people attended. 30,000. And all these Western devotees organized this festival. Real American expertise. They put big billboards, advertise this thing, this festival, India. 30,000. And every day there was book table.
Full house.
Full house, yes. Yeah. And Radhanath Swami that's how he first came to Prabhupada. He was in the crowd. He was in the crowd, and Prabhupada, and Prabhupada wanted him to come and sit in there. Prabhupada somehow saw him. I don't know, there was a connection somewhere. Because he was sitting just like one of the people in the crowd. And Prabhupada said, see that person there? Bring him let him come and sit on the stage. And this is the first Prabhupada, Radhanath Swami. He wasn't Radhanath Swami then, but later he surrendered to Prabhupada, took initiation, and took sannyas. Today is one of our leading preachers. We go to Chaupati. There's a beautiful temple in Chaupati. And all his disciples, they're all very educated. They all what? MIT. Yeah, like that. They all highly qualified in whatever field. But they're all practicing devotees also, brahmacharis. And they're preaching, you see, so many of them are going out in the world and preaching. Yeah. When he goes, it's like, he goes to Vrindavan for Kartik, it's like, I seen one time, there's 800 of his disciples with him in buses. They come with lots of buses traveling. That's the potency he has. But he's so humble. If you hear him speak, when he comes. He hasn't come to South Africa. I don't know when he will come. I will pray that he has one or two disciples here. But, he is one of the miracle disciples of Prabhupada. What he does is also, so much is created this eco-village, his disciples.
I met him there.
You've been there? Yeah, okay.
I met Father Swami there.
Yes. And there's hospital, that Bhaktivinoda hospital also. That's where devotees can go and get treated. So he's done a lot in so many ways. American boy. I didn't know where he's going to end up. He's just on a wild trip. Young blood. Okay, they said I got 2 minutes. All right. Prabhupada ki jai. God Foundation, Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
We've got time for a short question. No long comments. A short question, please. Anybody has a short question?
Sure. Prabhu. Prabhupada always talks about we in the material world, we are the greatest speculators. In that verse, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I always looked at it. that part of speculation is not explained. So the Lord says, He's all these different opulences. But that part about speculating how we in this material world and like being a marginal, but the speculation part, we don't understand what we are doing here in this world. So that verse is very apt to that.
When you say we, you're speaking about you or
Yeah,
you don't understand?
human.
We understand.
Yeah, humans. All, everybody put together, all
Is
nations.
there any question? It's only 10.
Yeah, the question is that
Yeah.
can we add that part of speculation to that verse? Because it's written in after Prabhupada passed away. But he always mentions speculation in all his.
They fall into that category.
Yeah.
also. Speculating is also gambling, a kind of gambling.
That doesn't, they don't.
Speculating. Mental speculating.
They miss that part in that.
That's against pure devotional service.
Yes.
When they define what is pure devotional service, Anya Vilasita Sunyam Jnana Karmani Avitam Anukulyena Krishna Bhakti Uttama, topmost devotional service, free from karma, karmic reaction, means mental fruitive activities, results of fruitive activities, mental speculation, or any other types of mechanical types of yoga. Anavitam, Anukulyena, Krishna, that thing must be favored, that type of activity must be anukul, favorable, as Krishna desires. So we are practitioners of bhakti, so we have to, we are different levels of bhakti. So if we mental speculators, at some point by some association with devotees who are free from it, we will become also, we won't stay mental speculators. Isn't it? Krishna deals in the 7th chapter Bhagavad Gita, he speaks of 4 types of persons who don't approach him. Isn't there 4 types of persons who approach him? The Maya Parita Jnana, those who are stolen, whose mind is stolen by illusion. Those lowest among mankind, those who are atheistic, agnostics, those who are Buddhas, stubborn like people. They won't surrender to Krishna. But he says in the later verse it says, Bhavanam Janmanam takes us after many, many births, they come to me. Such a soul is very rare. Samatma Sudur Namaha. Such a soul is very rare. So, yeah, by good, many, in Lord Chaitanya's time, there were so many Mayavad that Lord Chaitanya confronted them, defeated them, and they surrendered to him. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakasananda Saraswati. When he went to the south, all the Sai wives and so many people got changed just by his association, by his preaching. Yes. All right, thank you very much.
His Grace Jaisacinandana Prabhu ki.